Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this presentation on sustainable management of krill in the Southern Ocean. My name is Nina Jensen, and I'm representing WWF Norway, where I work as conservation director. And we're also proud to be a partner with Aker Biomarine. My presentation will be about 20 minutes, and after that there will be about 10 minutes for questions. So please make sure to note down your questions for discussion at the end. Just briefly about WWF before I start. WWF is the world's largest conservation organization, and we are represented in over 100 countries on 5 continents. WWF also has more than 5,000 staff worldwide and over 5 million supporters. And it was our 50th anniversary just a couple of weeks back. So, to the amazing creature that we're here to talk about today, the fabulous krill. The krill is a small shrimp-like crustacean. It grows up to about 6 centimeters in size and weighs around 2 grams. But despite its small size, it's probably one of the most important species in the Antarctic ecosystem. It is not at the base of the ecosystem, contrary to common belief, because it feeds on both phytoplankton and zooplankton. But even still, it's also one of the key feed sources for many of the Antarctic creatures or animals. The krill also forms really dense aggregations, which is one of the reasons why it's easy to catch with big trawlers. And some of these dense swarms can range up to several kilometers in each direction, and there can be as many as 30,000 krill per cubic meter. There's been quite a development of the krill fishery over the past few years. The fishery has been going on for about 35 years, something like that. And it was at its peak when the Soviet Union was the most active player in the fishery in the 80s. However, since then, the catches have dropped quite substantially, and over the past 15 years, the catches have been somewhere around 120,000 tons, increasing only last year up until more than 200,000 tons. So there are several players in the fishery, and this has changed over the years as well. Norway now being the dominant player in the krill fishery, but also Russia, Japan, China, Korea, and Poland are active players today, and some have also expressed interest in entering into the fishery. So krill is not just important for the ecosystem and all the animals in the Southern Ocean. It can also be worth millions of dollars to the fishing industry, and there is also growing interest across the world in entering into the fishery, which has raised some concerns. Like I said, from 1990 until today, only about 100,000 tons of krill has been harvested each year, and the global biomass estimate was changed last year and increased up to 133 million tons. However, the biomass estimates are ranging somewhere in the region between 50 to 500 million tons, and there's still uncertainty as to how much krill there actually is every year. That's why they've given the global estimate somewhere in the range of 133 million tons. So for the total catch limit for the entire Southern Ocean, you can catch as much as 8.6 million tons. However, with the current day catches, this is one of the world's largest underexploited stocks. This means that the total allowable catch, being 8.6 million tons, is actually more than 40 times the current annual catch. And the current annual catch is also less than 0.02% of the total biomass. The fishery is currently operating exclusively in the South Atlantic, around the Antarctic Peninsula, South Georgia and South Shetland Islands. And to make sure that the krill isn't overexploited in this region, CAMLR, which I'll get back to in a second, has set an interim catch limit or an additional precautionary catch limit of 620,000 tons. And this is to ensure that krill isn't over-harvested. If you put the krill fishery in a global perspective and compare it to other marine capture fisheries, it's actually quite small. So the current krill catch is down here. And if you compare it to other large-scale fisheries, it's actually a relatively small fishery. However, it does have a potential to grow up to being one of the largest marine capture fisheries in the world. This is why it is absolutely essential to have all the sustainability measures in place before this fishery expands to this size. So the Aker biomarine fishery is currently the biggest fishery in the area. And for the 2010 season, they caught around 100,000 tons of krill. Their method is so-called eco-harvesting. And although I haven't seen this technique in person, the independent observers that they have on board the vessel report that this is one of the most efficient methods of catching krill, and also highly efficient in avoiding bycatch. Bycatch then being undesirable catch, and also catches such as marine mammals and seabirds, which we certainly do not want to be caught in the trawl. So far, there has been zero bycatch of marine mammals and seabirds in this eco-harvesting. However, WWF and others have raised some concerns about the potential bycatch of marine larvae and fish larvae in the trawl. And as a consequence, Aker has entered into a partnership with a research institute called MRAG to explore the level of bycatch of marine larvae and, if there is a high level of bycatch, find avoidance measures. Concerns have also been raised about the potential for a localized depletion of krill, meaning if all the krill catches are taken in one small area where the land-based predators forage. And I'll get back to that also in a second. This is, however, not just a concern with the Aker biomarine fishery, it's a concern for the fishery overall. What is good about the Aker biomarine fishery is that since the beginning, they have complied 100% with the CAMLR standards. And even though today there is only 50% observer coverage in the krill fishery, and the krill fishery is actually the only fishery in the Southern Ocean that is exempt from mandatory observer coverage, Aker biomarine has still implemented 100% observer coverage to make sure that they document everything about their fishery and the potential consequences. What we feel mostly proud about in this partnership is their contribution to science, because one of the biggest challenges in the krill fishery today is the lack of knowledge and the great deal of unknowns in the Southern Ocean. So Aker biomarine is actually allowing scientists free of charge on their vessel to use it as a research platform. And they're also now contributing 5 specific vessel days each year for independent research, so that the scientists can actually develop their own research program and go to specific areas to document potential impacts on krill and krill-dependent predators. Aker biomarine also went through quite an extensive independent review process through the MSC system. And I don't know how many of you actually know MSC, but for WWF, it is the most credible certification scheme on the market today. And several independent reviews have been made over the different certification labels available, with the MSC scoring way on top on the other.